Welcome to Youth Financial Literacy, Avoiding Credit Traps. We are going to get started with today's material. Let me load this up for you guys. Again, my name is Andy Everett from Prairie View A&M Cooperative Extension Program with the Community and Economic Development Unit, and we also have Madeline Serra, the 4-H CEP agent here in El Paso County as well on the line. So today we're going to start with avoiding credit traps. Can you guys see that, or you want me to make it a little bit larger? I think that's probably okay.
I can't see your screen, Miss Andy.
You can't? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Neither can I.
Okay. 1, 2. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna make it just a little bit larger for you guys. Okay, so the material today is avoiding credit traps, okay? And so what this module shows you guys, or we're going to talk about today, is letting you guys be aware of information to help you guys recognize and avoid credit scams and predatory lending, and which can consume a person's personal resources and severely damage their credit history. So we all know that out there's a lot of scammers and people that are trying to make a quick buck, and we want you to be aware of them, and so that you guys can protect yourself, okay? So after completing this module, you guys should be able to recognize predatory lending practices, identify 4 costly business practices and scams, describe identity theft, follow recommended steps to avoid identity theft, and define home equity loans and lines of credit.
Great.
Okay, so the first module topic is predatory lending and what is it? The second we'll cover is costly business practices and scams. The third will be identity theft, what is it? And then home equity loans.
What page are you on?
I'm just kind of talking, but we're on the first module introduction.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And then prepayment penalty terms, okay? So predatory lending, what is it? So the basics behind this are that predatory lending is a deceptive or predatory lending practices that are commonly defined as abusive lending practices. And they're called that because they strip equity away from the homeowner or trick them into loan products they don't understand. Can you guys all mute your mics, please? Okay, so an example of predatory lending includes targeting low-income people with poor credit and elderly homeowners with a large amount of equity in their homes by making unsolicited telephone and mail offers with unfavorable terms and interest rates. So you may not completely fit into that mold of being an elderly or you guys don't have so much established credit yet, but you can be aware of this. You guys all have grandmas and grandpas or you know, if you're lucky to still have some, you can protect them by knowing these things. I know just from personal experience that these kind of predatory lenders call my grandmother's house all day long, telling her about Medicaid schemes or refinancing her house, you know, trying to get her Social Security information. And those are just things that you just never want to give out over the phone. And you want to protect your relatives and friends, okay, including yourself. So just because a lender charges high interest rates or fees, it does not mean that they are employing predator lending practices. So sometimes you'll get a loan that is at a high interest, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're there being a predatory lender, it's there's a lot of different things that'll define that, and we'll go through that right now, okay? And then automated underwriting systems that we've talked about, like with banking services and systems, when they kind of process your application and go through the whole algorithm. Those never use factors such as a borrower's race, ethnicity, age, or any other factor prohibited by fair housing laws to approve or deny a loan. So, you know, when somebody's calling the house or something, they might be targeting a certain race or a certain gender or a certain age group. But if you did that type of thing at a bank or something like that, you might not run into those kind of problems. And anyone can be a target or a predatory lending practices. It's not just the people that I just described, okay? So just to get you guys kind of started, I'm going to ask you guys a few questions, so you can go ahead and unmute your mics if you want to answer. But what, you know, just by going through all of these modules that we've gone through, what are some ways that your bank or financial institution can help protect you from fraudulent activity?
Giving out personal information.
Okay, Jacob?
Yeah, both of those. I agree with both of those.
I didn't hear them because they were at the same time. Jacob, say yours first.
Monitoring your accounts.
Okay, right, correct. What did you say, Dom?
Not giving out your personal information over the phone.
Right, right. And so if you have that at a bank, you know, they're going to be monitoring your accounts, and if they see anything fishy, they're going to alert you, even maybe put a freeze on the account, and then you can protect yourself by not giving out any personal information. So another question, what are some ways you can put yourself at risk of being targeted by a predatory lender? How do you think you'd be putting yourself at risk?
Having a lot of social media accounts.
Right, they can get some personal information on you.
Having a lot of credit cards with the information on them, because they can just check each of your credit cards through your, like, hacking them, I guess.
Maybe. I'm going to kind of go through this, and we'll see if we can get some of those questions answered, okay? And then do you guys know any risks of filing your income taxes with companies who claim to get you money faster? Do you know what the risks are for that?
They could probably take your money
Take your money
Yes,
how?
that.
by stealing your accounts and then using it on something.
Well, possibly, but I think maybe what they're talking about here is that you file your taxes with somebody that says, oh, we'll get you your money in 48 hours, you know, because the IRS is going to pay them that check and they just take that money out, right? But how much are they charging you to get you that money quick? And it would waiting 14 days have saved you anywhere from like $200. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So they'll charge you like a certain percentage of that or a certain fee, and you end up losing a lot of your tax return by doing that. So getting started with the module. So some other costly businesses and practices and scams are, and we've talked about some of these before, are check cashing businesses, rent-to-own businesses such as like Rent-A-Center and places like that, because they charge super high interest fees on their products, and instant income tax refunds like we just discussed, and then telephone and internet solicitation and scams. And then there's also identity theft, right? You want to keep your information protected because somebody can steal your identity and take out loans in your name, and it can really hurt your credit. Moving on. So some of the terms here that we want to define are predatory lending, which is commonly defined as abusive lending practices that strip equity away from a homeowner. We went through this. Targeting low-income people, elderly. They use high-pressure sales tactics and have little concern about a borrower's ability to repay the loan, okay? Equity, so we've talked about equity a little bit here, so let me define it for you. Equity is the value in your home above the total amount of the liens against your home. So for example, if you owe $100,000 on your house, but it is worth $130,000, you have $30,000 in equity, okay? So a lot of times these predatory lenders and just predatory people, they come in and they try to do some kind of refinance scheme or and try to get that equity away from you, okay? And you got to protect yourself. I'm not gonna really go into the loan. We've talked about a loan several times. You guys know that's money you borrow from a financial institution within terms, right? So you have requirements of paying that, and then your interest rates are what the cost of borrowing the money is, right? Better credit score, lower interest rate. Poor credit score, higher interest rate, okay? And then borrower.
What are what are
I'm-
FICO credit scores?
What are FICO credit scores?
I think
Or
that's
where?
what it is. I've heard of that. What is that? Like on a commercial, on like
Yeah,
about
what's just your
credit and
credit
stuff.
score? Your FICO credit score is the system that they use to help create your credit score. We went over that a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember. I remember now.
You remember? Okay.
Yes.
So then refinancing is something that we haven't talked about. And refinancing is a mortgage that allows a homeowner to receive a new mortgage and use those proceeds to help pay off the old mortgage. So, but that doesn't exclude you from new closing costs, fees, and other points associated with the new mortgage and prepayment penalties associated with the old mortgage, okay? So you have to think about those. So, but if you financed a house at a really high interest rate and you're having a lot of trouble paying that payment, but you're still making your payment on time, you can try and go with another financial institution or another lender and try and refinance that. That's going to be better for you. Terms and conditions that are going to be better for you, but there are some costs associated with that. Okay. So here we're talking about, refinancing a loan multiple times with a short period and charging high points and fees. So points, just to define that, are a one-time charge by a lender to lower the interest rate of a loan, and 1 point is equal to 1% of the loan amount. So, they'll charge you with that to refinance, and then your fees, just any charge that they have for that. Okay, so let's talk about the 4 costly business practices and scams, okay? So there are several types of abusive lending practices, scams, or questionable business practices that may strip what we call equity away from a homeowner or place a consumer in financial hardship. So classes like these, financial education classes, teach you, the consumer, how to avoid abusive lending practices, right? We don't want you to fall victim to any of that. And then some questionable business practices and scams include check cashing businesses, rent-to-own businesses, instant income tax refunds, and telephone and internet solicitation scams. We talked about that also. So why do you guys think that people would choose to use a check cashing business?
To make quick money.
A check cashing business? A check cashing business is somebody that takes your payroll check, your money from your job, and they cash that check, but they charge you a high interest. Why do you think people would use that and not just?
So they can make a lot of money by saying that they'll get your money fast when it's just the same money, or they'll give you money fast, but it's just the same money, but they're just getting it to you fast. Like what's that? The JG Wentworth. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Is that one good or bad? Because they do the same thing.
Yeah, it's somewhat of a predatory thing because they're going to take, you have a settlement offer, right? And they want you to settle that offer fast, right? So they're going to give you a lump sum of money But in the end, they're going to charge you a rate or a fee, and they're going to steal a lot of your money to get that. And so it probably would have been better for you to just take those structured payments and get that money every month or however it's structured than to have this company come in and, you know, take a good chunk of your money away when they get you that large amount. So, I mean, those are things you need to think about. What do you guys think are some of the risks of using a check cashing business? Anybody
They're
else?
gonna take
What
a
you
large
said.
lump of your money.
Jacob, say that?
They're gonna take a large lump of your money.
Right. Right. So for the first one, you know, people might use the place because they feel like it's convenient. It's probably in their neighborhood. And so they run in there real quick and they get their check cashed, right? And they get all the cash back, right? They have that cash on hand, but they're losing that big chunk of money. So what do you guys think is a better alternative than using an instant income tax refund service to get your income tax refund? What do you think would be a better alternative than doing that?
Can you wait for that? Like for the cash?
Yeah, you could just, if you just get your places at a tax, you can, tax place, you can just wait for your check to come, right? Through the direct deposit or through the mail, right? You could just wait and
Yeah.
you can have your money.
I think
And you can be patient and wait.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think I'd rather be patient and wait.
But what do you guys have any other alternatives instead of using one of those refund services?
I have a question.
Sure.
What's a tax refund?
Okay, so after when you're paying into your payroll or wherever you work, they take taxes out of your check, right? And they take taxes for like Social Security and then just your regular income tax that they take away, right? And so at the end of the year, when you do your taxes or the next year, you figure out, you know, how much taxes you owe the government. And the lower your income and maybe the more dependents that you have, you're maybe able to get that money back. Okay, so you don't have to pay on all of that money. So you'll get a cash refund check, especially when you have dependents and kids, and you claim those kids. You can get so much depending on how many kids that you have, and that changes every year. So I don't want to say a set amount. But like the first child is worth so much, then a second child is worth so much. And then depending on if you file your taxes as a married couple or you file your taxes as a head of household and separate, that changes how much money you would get back. And some people, you know, they make too much, they make a lot of money, so they're definitely going to have to pay taxes and they wouldn't be getting a refund check. Did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So I think a better alternative than using an income tax refund service is something that they call volunteer income tax assistance centers, or VITA. And those are free tax services that are like at the YMCA. I know that the tribe has one. A lot of banks have VITA volunteers that help you with your income tax and make sure that you're not falling into one of these schemes of losing, you know, a good chunk of your income tax money, because those companies really do prey on the lowest income people, and they're already struggling and they don't need to struggle anymore. And then just the last question, what service is available to protect consumers from telephone and internet solicitation scams? So what kind of programs are available to help people to protect them?
That LifeLock, right?
Right. What else?
Downloading Common Sense.
You know, sometimes predators and things like that, and people like that, they prey on you having a bad day, or you being busy, or you know, you needing money or something like that, right? So sometimes you're not thinking right, and sometimes even the best of people can be scammed into something because they're desperate. and they don't have the knowledge or background to know that they're being scammed. So that's why these kinds of classes are good, to make sure that you're armed with knowledge and tools for that not to happen to you. Okay. So moving on, the check cashing businesses. So check cashing businesses are legal and found throughout the country. People use check cashing businesses because they do not have any kind of traditional credit, savings, or checking accounts. And check cashing businesses cash your checks in a return for a fee. So, however, some charge extremely high fees for this service, like we've been talking about, and banks and other financial institutions, such as thrifts and credit unions, can provide these same services and more for less money. Okay. So a savings account, is an account where you keep your money for safekeeping or as investment, or as an investment that earns interest, depending on what kind of checking savings account you have. We've talked about checking accounts before. That's where you write checks and pay your bills, your goods. You guys know what a bank is, a credit union. Do you guys remember what a thrift is?
They do like the small loans or how yeah, like that.
And home loans, right? So they're a fairly
Right.
regulated savings bank or savings or loan association that is similar to a bank and makes home loans. So thrifts were created to promote home ownership and must have a majority of their assets in housing related loans. Continuing with check cashing business. Yeah, so some of these states allow check cashing businesses to roll these loans over. And that can really hurt businesses, because if you have this type of service, the smartest thing you can do is to pay the loan off in full on the due date to avoid any rollover fees. They will, postpone cashing the posted check for an additional fee, and this practice ends up costing the consumer more in interest fees than the consumer had just gotten a small loan from a local bank or credit union, right? So it's the key to this is that it's in the interest charges and the fees, right? They are just slamming you with this amount of fees, and they're really setting you up to fail, because in the end, if you're low income and you were already desperate, this causes you to be even more desperate. Okay. So just some of your financial choices are currently limited. You want to try one of these following alternatives in check cashing businesses. You want to cash your check at the bank from which it was drawn, if possible. So whoever you got your payroll check with, say they bank with Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Westar, you can go to that bank and cash your check there. Even if you don't have an account with them, since it is from that bank, you can cash your check from there and you'll avoid those fees, okay? And then you want to start managing your finances so that you can save the money needed to open a checking and or savings account, okay? So rent-to-own businesses. Okay, so rent-to-own businesses provide customers with products like furniture and electronics for a monthly fee, but you end up paying ridiculous prices for these products through long-term rental agreements, okay? Rent-to-own businesses do not typically report your positive payment record to the credit reporting agency, so you're paying all this interest on top of it, and then they're not even helping you by reporting that you've been making your on-time payments, okay? You can save money and build a positive credit history by making a purchase using a low-rate credit card rather than using a rent-to-own business. Okay. So instant income tax refunds. So these are companies offering an instant income tax refunds to provide consumers with offers often too good to be true. So instant tax refunds or refund anticipation loans are an expensive way to get your tax refund quickly, but you'll pay a high fee for this service. You want to file your taxes electronically on the IRS website as an alternative to using an instant income tax refund services. You could use those VITA programs that we talked about, which are some of the nonprofits and even local IRS offices that offer free income tax assistance. They're all over El Paso. You do not need to go pay for an income tax refund services. A lot of times, some people have accountants and things like that that help them file their income taxes. And they already have somebody that does that, but you definitely don't want to go to these instant tax places because you want to keep the money that's yours. That's your money. I feel like I'm gonna say that Wentworth commercial. It's my money and I need it now. No, it's your money and we want you to wait for it so that you can have all of your money. Okay? So,
Yes.
I'm sorry?
If you put money in the bank,
Mm-hmm.
and leave it there, will it gain interest?
It depends what kind of account you have. If you have a savings account that earns interest on every dollar, then you are gonna earn interest. You also have like what it's called cash back programs. So say your debit card or your credit card is linked to that, and then certain purchases you get cash back. So that's a way to earn money too. It just depends on what kind of bank institution you bank with and what kind of account that you set up. So remember when we were first like looking at bank services and we were talking about, doing your research on banks? So these are the types of things that you're going to look for, right? When you're setting up a savings account, you definitely want to be earning money on your money. So those are the kinds of things that you guys want to look for. Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Okay. So telephone and internet solicitation scams. So as a general rule, you never provide personal data such as account numbers or your social security number to someone you don't know. There are many telephone scams, including sweepstakes claims, travel scams, business opportunities, illegal charitable solicitations, work at home schemes, and credit repair plans. You want to register on a federal do not call list to protect against telephone solicitation scams. And you want to keep your records and create a paper trail if you do respond to a telephone or internet solicitation. In addition to finding internet solicitations online, you may also receive them in your email box. A lot of these go to your junk email, but some of them don't. And there's also stuff like phishing and malware, so links that look like, oh, it's a legit business or a legit, sweepstakes or something, and it's really not. You can really see just by looking at the email of like the type of email account they have, because like if it was true, it would be, they say you just gotta deposit a check or something like that, and you gotta click this link. Now that clicking that link can cause you to get viruses or cause you to lose your personal information. So you want to look at things before you open them, okay? And then if you believe you've been a victim of a loan scam, you want to report that immediately, okay? So I know like sometimes you guys watch the news maybe and you see that like scam alert or things like that. That comes from people reporting those kinds of scams. And it's good for you to report them because you're armed with the knowledge that tells you that this isn't right, this is a scam, but maybe somebody else isn't, and maybe you're helping to protect somebody else by reporting that. Okay, so that's always a good thing. So moving on with some more information on that. Yeah, so there's a lot of internet scams. If you surf the web, you might find them in your email box. Be careful. Don't give your personal information or credit card information on the internet if it's not a reputable source, or has some kind of security. If you're making purchases, and then these are some numbers that you can call to report it immediately. So the loanscamalert.org. You can call that HOPE number, the Federal Trade Commission, and then you can also contact your state attorney general or any local authority in your state. Okay, so now we're here towards the knowledge check. Madeline is going to do this part for you guys.
Okie dokie, guys. True or false? Okay. Check cashing businesses are illegal in the U.S. True or false?
False.
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 Good, good. Check cashing businesses are legal and found throughout the country. However, some charge extremely high fees for their services. Banks or other financial institutions can provide these same services for less money and may be the better option. Okay, good job. Next knowledge check. True or false? You may be better off making a purchase using a low-rate credit card than using a rent-to-own business. True
True.
or false?
True.
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 Good. Good, good. Okay, the reason for that is because you may end up paying.
Say that again, Miss May. You got cut up.
Did we lose her?
Mm.
I can't hear her. She just started talking and then I stopped.
Yeah, me too. That's how it is.
Same.
Okay, we might have lost her because she's been having internet issues. But yeah, so you guys may end up paying really high prices for products purchased at a rent-to-own business due to long-term rental agreements. And additionally, rent-to-own businesses do not typically cooperate with the credit industry, so a person's positive payment record is not reported to the credit reporting agencies, and as a result, it's not reflected in your credit history. So it's just really not worth it for you, okay? So moving into identity theft, what is it? Identity theft occurs when someone takes your personal information without your knowledge to commit fraud or theft. And with identity theft, thieves take personal information about you, such as your social security number, credit card numbers, or other information. And they use several tactics to obtain your information, such as calling your credit card companies, pretending to be you to change your mailing address, or opening a new credit card account, using your name, birth date, and social security number. If fraudulent transactions occur on your account, it does not automatically mean your identity was stolen. It may be an isolated incident of theft that can be quickly resolved. Okay. So how do you currently protect yourself against fraud, scams, and identity theft? You guys have an answer for that?
You don't give out personal information on social media.
Right. Anybody else?
Again, the LifeLock, the protection. It
Okay.
protects you from identity theft specifically.
And so what would you do if you thought your identity had been stolen?
Report it to the police.
And report it to the credit bureaus, right?
LifeLock. Call LifeLock.
Sorry.
And report it to the credit reporting agencies, right?
Return to the under mattress bank account.
Say that again.
Return to the under mattress bank account.
No, we're not going to return to the under mattress bank account. Okay. So yeah, you just need to take action immediately, and there's this number right here that you guys can call. Okay, there's a hotline, 1-877-ID-THEFT, and there's the number. Okay, we need to do that immediately.
Okay.
So we want to keep our sensitive data, credit cards, and checkbooks out of sight when we're allowing strangers into our home. We want to shred old and unnecessary financial documents, statements, and unwanted credit card offers. And before you reveal any personal information, you want to find out how it will be used and whether it will be shared with others. You also want to guard your mail from thieves, okay? So you pick your mail from your mailbox as soon as possible. You place outgoing mail in the post office collection boxes and not in your mailbox, your own mailbox. When you create a PIN for your credit, ATM, or debit, do not use something a thief might guess, such as a birth date, social security number, or phone number. So these want to be unique numbers, that aren't going to be tied to things like that. And no 1234, no 4321. Those are the worst possible pins you guys could use. No 111, do something unique that's actually going to protect you. What you're trying to do is protect yourself, okay? And then you want to order a copy of your credit report at least once a year. Okay? I think we talked about this. Did I just share this all with you? Yes. And remember, you can order your credit report once a year from annualcreditreport.com. Okay, so let's go into home equity loans and lines of credit. So this is something that's not always talked about, and something that you guys can know when you guys start thinking about buying a home or when you're saving up to buy a home, okay? So a home equity loan is a loan secured against your home. So it is a loan in addition to your existing mortgage, okay? And a line of credit is also secured against your home if you have access to funds up to the limit of the line of credit. And before you accept an offer for a home equity loan or line of credit, you need to make sure you know the terms of the loan and if there are prepayment penalties. So a lot of times also there's things called reverse mortgages. So when older people need a little bit of supplement to their income and the Social Security maybe it's not, cutting it, they can take what's called a reverse mortgage on their home, and the bank pays them a certain amount. But there's a lot of things in the structures of those that really need to be worked out. And then how the house is going to be sold after, if it's going to be sold back to the bank, or they're going to give the rest of the money to a relative, things like that. Okay, those are things that need to be worked out. But those are another type of home equity loan. Home equity loans are often structured as a 10 or 15-year loan, and you want to shop around for a mortgage that is fairly priced with fair terms and ethical marketing. If you think you will need to use your home for an important family need, such as a retirement or sending a child to college, okay? Prepayment penalties, yes, okay. So prepayment penalties are charges imposed by some lenders as a penalty for paying a loan off earlier than its original payoff date. Prepayment penalties are common among some of the subprime and or predatory lender loan products. Okay, so they put these three, so that's kind of like a red flag, right? If you have a home mortgage or some other type of loan and they have a prepayment penalty on there, then that's just showing that they want you to extend the life of that loan till the end of the terms, because that makes them more money, right? They have those high interests that you're paying on, and that's just their money that's coming in every month from you, and you're not paying the principal down of your loan. So that's a red flag that you guys should look out for, okay? So before you agree to use a loan that has a prepayment penalty, you want to be sure to obtain the following information from your lender in writing: the terms of the mortgage provision containing the prepayment penalty, the amount of the penalty that you will be required to pay, the time period in which a penalty will be charged if you prepay or make a substantial payment on your loan, and any other conditions under which the lender may charge you a prepayment penalty. Okay. So that's it. We're at the end. We finished pretty fast. That was a lot of material. So the goal of this module was to provide you with the information to help you recognize and avoid credit scams and predatory lending, which can consume your personal resources and severely damage your credit history. You guys want to be aware of these types of credit practices and products with high interest rates and fees, and never agree to the extension of credit under pressure, and if you do not understand all the terms and conditions, okay? Additionally, you want to try to avoid, those check cashing businesses that we talked about, those rent-to-own businesses, the income tax scams, and any telephone, internet marketing solicitations and scams. And you want to protect your friends and your family as well, okay? So if you hear something that they're on the conversation, on the phone with somebody that's trying to sell them something, maybe you want to, tell your grandparents or friends that are maybe not knowledgeable about those things, about not giving those types of information, okay? Because not every... Go ahead.
One time my grandma almost got scammed because she didn't know, and someone claiming to be Social Security asked her for her Social Security number, but luckily we were there, so we told her that it was a scam.
Right, exactly. So I mean, they prey on elderly. Um, so I'm gonna stop recording. I thank you guys all for attending this session.